When I look at you, I see myself many years ago. I see the same questions in your eyes, the same uncertainty about the future, the same quiet hope that somehow life will turn into something meaningful. And if I could sit beside the younger version of myself at 20 years old, I would start with something simple. I would tell him to stop waiting for permission. Nobody is going to arrive and tell you that you are ready to change the world. Nobody's going to hand you confidence and say, now go ahead. Confidence is something you build while you are already moving forward. When I was young, I did not wake up one morning with absolute certainty about the future. I had curiosity, I had ideas, and I had the willingness to work on those ideas longer than most people were willing to try. That is the difference I want you to understand. Success rarely belongs to the person who feels the most prepared. It belongs to the person who refuses to stop learning. If you are 20 years old right now, you might think the world belongs to older people, to experts, to those who already have experience. But let me tell you something important. The future does not belong to people who already know everything. The future belongs to people who are curious enough to keep asking questions. When I first started working with computers, they were not popular. Most people did not believe personal computers would become part of everyday life. Many people thought it was unrealistic to imagine a computer on every desk and in every home. But I believe something simple. If technology could become more accessible, it could change everything. That belief was not built on certainty. It was built on curiosity and stubbornness. And that is what I want you to understand today. Your greatest advantage right now is not money, it is not experience. It is your time and your ability to learn faster than anyone around you. At your age, every day is an opportunity to absorb knowledge, to experiment, to test ideas, and even to fail. Failure is not something you should avoid. Failure is something you should use. I made mistakes. I took risks that could have ended badly. But every mistake taught me something valuable. Every setback forced me to think differently. When you fail, the most important question is not, why did this happen to me? The real question is, what can I learn from this? Let me also tell you something about focus. The world will constantly try to distract you. There will always be entertainment, social pressure, and endless noise pulling your attention in different directions. But the people who build extraordinary things are the ones who learn to protect their focus. When you find something that truly interests you, something that makes you curious enough to lose track of time, hold on to that interest, explore it deeply, study it, experiment with it, master it. Because mastery is not created by talent alone. Mastery is created by obsession and dedication over time. Another thing I would tell my younger self is to choose the people around him carefully. The people you spend time with shape the way you think. If you surround yourself with people who believe everything is impossible, you will slowly begin to believe it too. But if you surround yourself with people who challenge ideas, who ask difficult questions, and who dream about building something bigger than themselves, your own thinking will expand. Great ideas rarely grow in isolation. They grow in conversations, in debates, and in collaboration with others who are just as curious as you are. And there is something else I want you to remember. Do not be afraid of looking foolish. Many people spend their entire lives hiding their ideas because they're afraid someone might laugh at them. But every innovation once sounded strange. Every breakthrough idea once seemed unrealistic. If you wait until everyone agrees with you, you will always be too late. Progress happens because someone is willing to say, what if the world could work differently, and then spend years proving that possibility is real. If I could speak to my younger self one more time, I would tell him that time is the most valuable resource he will ever have. When you are young, it feels like there is an endless supply of time ahead of you. But the truth is that the years move quickly. The habits you build now will shape the direction of your entire life. If you spend your time learning, experimenting, and building things that matter, those small daily efforts will eventually grow into something powerful. Success does not appear suddenly. It grows slowly, quietly, and often invisibly at first. So if you are listening to me right now and wondering whether you're capable of achieving something meaningful, let me tell you this directly. You do not need perfect conditions to begin. You do not need absolute certainty about the future. What you need is curiosity, discipline, and the courage to start working on something you believe in. The world changes because ordinary people decide to pursue extraordinary ideas and refuse to give up on them. If I were speaking to the younger version of myself at 20 years old, I would begin with the truth that many people learn far too late. Life is not about making one perfect decision that magically guarantees success. Life is about making thousands of small decisions that slowly move you in the right direction. When you are young, you might feel pressure to figure everything out immediately. You might think that if you choose the wrong path, everything will fall apart. But that is not how progress works. Progress is messy, it is uncertain. And often, it only makes sense when you look back years later. When I started working on software, there was no clear roadmap showing where that journey would lead. There were no guarantees that the work would succeed. But I was fascinated by the possibilities. I believed that software could unlock the true potential of computers. That belief pushed me to spend countless hours learning, experimenting, and building. And I want you to understand something important about that process. Passion is not always comfortable. Passion often means working longer than anyone else. It means thinking about problems when everyone around you has already moved on to something easier. But that kind of dedication is what transforms ideas into reality. Another lesson I would share with my younger self is about persistence. Many people start with enthusiasm, but very few continue when the work becomes difficult. The early stages of building something meaningful are often frustrating. You will face obstacles you did not expect. You will encounter criticism from people who do not understand your vision. There will be moments when progress feels painfully slow, but persistence has a remarkable power. When you keep moving forward while others stop, you begin to create an advantage that compounds over time. I would also remind my younger self that knowledge is one of the most powerful tools you can ever acquire. The world belongs to those who learn continuously. When I was young, I spent enormous amounts of time reading and studying new ideas. Books were not just information sources for me. They were windows into the minds of people who had already explored complex problems. When you read widely, you expose yourself to perspectives that can reshape the way you think. And when your thinking evolves, your ability to solve problems improves dramatically. But knowledge alone is not enough. You must apply what you learn. Many people collect information, but never transform that information into action. Builders are different. Builders take ideas and turn them into systems, tools, and solutions that help other people. When you focus on solving real problems, success often follows naturally. Money, recognition, and influence are usually the byproducts of creating something valuable for the world. Another thing I would tell my younger self is to think long-term. Short-term thinking is one of the biggest traps young people fall into. It is easy to become impatient when results do not appear immediately, but meaningful achievements often require years of consistent effort. When you commit to long-term thinking, you gain the freedom to experiment without constantly worrying about quick rewards. You begin to see challenges as part of the process rather than signs that you should quit. I would also say something about humility. The more you learn, the more you realize how much remains unknown. That realization should not discourage you. Instead, it should fuel your curiosity. The moment you believe you already understand everything is the moment you stop growing. Curiosity keeps your mind flexible. It allows you to adapt when industries change and new technologies emerge. Competition is another reality you should embrace rather than fear. When talented people work towards similar goals, they push each other to improve. Competition forces you to refine your ideas and strengthen your skills. It reveals weaknesses you might never notice on your own. Instead of viewing competitors as enemies, think of them as forces that accelerate innovation. And finally, I would tell my younger self something about purpose. Success is not only about wealth or recognition. Those things can be motivating, but they are not enough to sustain a lifetime of effort. The most meaningful work happens when your ideas help improve lives or solve problems that affect millions of people. When your work contributes something valuable to the world, success becomes more than a personal victory. It becomes part of a larger impact. So if you are listening to me today as a young man, wondering whether your dreams are realistic, I want you to remember this. Every major transformation in history began with someone who refused to accept the limits of the present. The world you live in today was built by people who believed that progress was possible and then spent years proving it. Your ideas may feel small right now. Your skills may still be developing. But if you continue learning, building, and persisting long enough, those small beginnings can grow into something far more powerful than you can currently imagine. When I imagine speaking to my younger self at 20, I don't start with success. I start with truth. Because the truth is something most young people rarely hear. When you are 20, everyone around you is talking about winning, about getting rich, about becoming successful as fast as possible. But very few people talk about the price of success. And if I could sit down with you right now, I would tell you something very clearly. Success is not something that happens quickly, and it is definitely not something that happens comfortably. It is built during the moments when you feel tired, when you feel uncertain, and when you feel like your progress is invisible to the rest of the world. When I was young, I was not thinking about becoming one of the richest people in the world. That was never the goal. What fascinated me was the idea that computers could become tools for everyone. At that time, computers were huge machines used mainly by scientists and large organizations. But I believe that software could make them useful for ordinary people. That belief might sound obvious today, but back then it was not. Many people thought the idea was unrealistic. And this is something I want you to understand about the future. The future rarely looks obvious when you are standing in the present. The ideas that eventually change the world almost always look strange in the beginning. So if you are a young man listening to me today and you have an idea that feels different, an idea that other people do not fully understand, yet do not be discouraged by that. In fact, sometimes confusion from others is a sign that you are exploring something new. Innovation often begins in places where certainty does not exist. But believing in an idea is not enough. Belief must be followed by work, and I mean real work. Not occasional effort when you feel inspired, but consistent effort even when you feel bored or frustrated. One of the most powerful lessons I learned early in life is that consistency beats intensity. Many people work extremely hard for a short period of time and then stop when things become difficult. But progress comes from people who continue working long after the excitement disappears. When you keep showing up every day, learning a little more, improving a little more, solving one problem at a time, those small improvements eventually compound into something remarkable. You may not notice the change immediately, but over months and years, the difference becomes enormous. Another thing I would tell my younger self is to treat learning like a lifelong mission. When I was building software in the early days, the technology was evolving extremely quickly. Every new discovery opened the door to new possibilities. If I had stopped learning, even for a short time, I would have fallen behind. The world rewards people who stay curious. Curiosity keeps your mind active, flexible, and open to new ideas. The moment you think you already know enough is the moment you stop growing. Let me also talk to you about mistakes. Many young people are terrified of making mistakes because they believe mistakes will destroy their reputation or ruin their future. But the truth is very different. Mistakes are one of the most valuable teachers you will ever encounter. Every mistake contains information. It shows you what does not work, what needs to improve, and where your understanding is incomplete. The people who eventually succeed are not the ones who avoid mistakes entirely. They are the ones who learn from them faster than everyone else. I also want to tell you something about time. When you are 20, time feels endless. You feel like you have decades ahead of you, and because of that, it is easy to delay important decisions. It is easy to say, I will start later, or I will try when I feel more ready. But the truth is that readiness rarely arrives on its own. You become ready by starting before you feel completely prepared. The earlier you begin exploring your ideas, the more time you have to improve them. And improvement is the secret behind every great achievement. Another important lesson is about focus. Your attention is one of the most valuable resources you possess. Every day, the world will try to capture your attention with distractions. Social media, entertainment, endless news, and countless small activities will compete for your time. But if you want to build something meaningful, you must learn to protect your focus. Deep work, the kind of focused effort where you solve complex problems and create new ideas, is becoming increasingly rare. And because it is rare, it is also incredibly valuable. I would also remind my younger self that success is rarely a solo journey. The world often celebrates individuals, but behind every major accomplishment, there is usually a team of talented people working together. Collaboration multiplies creativity. When you surround yourself with people who are passionate, intelligent, and motivated, your own potential expands. Ideas improve when they are challenged and refined by others who see things from different perspectives. And finally, I would say something about purpose. Money and success can be powerful motivators, but they are not enough to sustain a lifetime of effort. Eventually, you begin to ask a deeper question. How does my work improve the world around me? The most meaningful achievements are the ones that create opportunities, solve problems, and help people live better lives. When your work contributes something valuable to society, success becomes more than personal gain. It becomes part of a larger impact. So if you are young and listening to me right now, wondering whether your dreams are realistic or whether your ideas are worth pursuing, remember this. Every major innovation started with someone who believed the world could be different. They did not have perfect certainty. They did not have unlimited resources. What they had was curiosity, determination, and the willingness to keep building even when the outcome was unclear. If you combine those qualities with patience and continuous learning, you can create possibilities far greater than you currently imagine.